It's February 22nd, 2023. I went to STARS Rehabilitation Physical Therapy today for my broken ankle that's in a form fit. Um, Priory and current currency at monetary system with the ONE. Like, again, I know everybody says this is Egypt. Um, but internally, I watched Aerial America, so I know where that goes. Especially since in my story with, here's this. Um, so here's where I'm at the moment. On the state, in the priory and the currency in monetary system garden inside of an area they call United States of America, Federal Reserve note, one on the back. Um, there is on my father's driving abstract for registered New York State vehicles licensed, registered to him, there was a Jaguar. To my mother, she had a Galant. First of all, she had Bavarian Motorworks for a long time. Then she had a Galant. She had an Accord. She had a Saab. She later had Toyota, and now we're sitting cross-legged on a Subaru, just for a Tim McGraw reference. Um, so that's that. On my driving abstract, I prefer the Bavarian Motorworks. I also have this Mini Cooper. Um, I have never driven a Jeep Cherokee, nor have I, or a Jeep Grand Cherokee, nor have I ever, not on my driving abstract anyway, nor have my parents or myself had a Lexus. However, um, Beyonce, who's calling herself Queen Bee in my airspace, in my territory of New York, like for where I was born with birth certificate and priory and currency and monetary necessity and needs, with the Federal Reserve note and the ONE and the In God We Trust and being somewhere in the public trust. So there's this in between. And my mother and father did not drive a Lexus. They also did not drive a Crown Victoria nor a Taurus. But there is a Cherokee, or self-proclaimed Colombian Cherokee, who does have that on their personal driving abstract, just so we're clear. Because Beyonce just came out with a song about, like, this ain't Texas Hold'em. Um, for whatever might be going on. I mean, like, again, sunlight where it is. The news put out something about a quasar. Um, the Army National Guard that I had just recently put in a online inquiry to sent me back a name of JAE and then YOON. So there's a name and a face at Army. And I'm like, now, again, it seems very Red Army. I'm just saying. But I don't want to whatever in the whatever. But it just is odd because I'm having trouble locally with some population shifts. And I don't know why, but that was the name that came back on the online inquiry. So I made a note of it for myself while also making note of this sunlight because I don't know what a quasar is. I don't have security like information. There's no like army training for someone like myself. There's been no invitation. There's just like, I mean, again, it's just this like whole rigmarole. But it seems to be this lifelong thing because when I arrived in 1978 to my grandfather's house, which is where I am at the moment. This was his bedroom with my grandmother, and now it is my mother's bedroom. Um, and it is just the population shift and the withholding of information, um, and just almost like this feeling locked out of a system. I mean, like, I never even got to the correct husband that I needed, um, and that I wanted and that I dreamed of, in vision. So there's that. Um, but looking for signs of, could there potentially be a problem on the horizon? Um, so I've got this going on that I've documented. Beyonce came out with the song, on her song where she calls herself Queen Bee. Um, she, like, and that's like a self-proclamation. I don't know who's working the director of intelligence or the theater or the composition or I don't know how any of that is working at the moment or not working. I don't know if the theater is in the correct stage and settings for chairs. Um, it doesn't look like it. I've been documenting some of it. It looks like some of the microphones in some of the chairs seem to have outlaw agendas rather than in-law agendas. But I don't know for certain. It's just what it looks like. And I mean, like, again, I don't have access to my own National Guard system because that chair is being taken up by a non-monetary proper person. And I don't even know how that seat got rearranged. Like, why is my father not in that seat? My father is at least monetary proper for the US and the Federal Reserve and for the ONE and for the In God We Trust and for the public trust. I don't understand how these things and where one puts application in for it. Anyhow, so here we are at this is ABC 7. President Joseph Biden is in the White House at the moment. Um, I don't know how they chose. It only looks like he got some assignment that almost looks like a Cherokee assignment. Again, I don't know how they keep the Red Army out, if they keep misappropriating. I mean, white Protestant male. That's been the existence of the monetary proper. How it ever strayed looks to me like foreign involvement and a potential security breach and security problem. Um, so here yesterday, they came out with this security camera, and then it says Waze breach, 13,000 customers were shown someone else's home. And again, I've got this going on where I'm in my home resident territory within the monetary. That's what's in the institutionalized banks. That's what's within the two oceans between Atlantic and the Pacific, between the northern border with Canada and the southern border with Mexico, and the 48 states in between, not to get confused or down a sidewinder conversation with Alaska and Hawaii or Puerto Rico.
Footage from those cameras, and Wise says it was due to a third-party service that it just started to use.
How about this? A stunning discovery in space that's 12 billion light years away. Astronomers in Australia have discovered what they say might be the brightest object in our universe. They say it is over 5 trillion times brighter than the sun. It's actually a quasar, which is something that forms and is powered by massive black holes. That black hole growing so fast that scientists say it's eating the equivalent of one sun per day. Yeah, an observatory has been monitoring it since 1980, and it kind of feels like that quasar came and ate our sun.
I think, yeah.
In a way, you know?
That strong.
It's that strong.
Don't eat our sun.
Leave our sun alone, we want it back.
Stuff falling out of the sky, burning up, eating the stars and the suns, and I know.
Going on.
Time travel, though. I mean, we could go back in time.
And you know what? You have to go back in time to see some sunshine this morning. Mixing in with cloud cover right now.
For some reason, they're labeling her as Brittany Bell. Again, I don't know. Beyonce was Destiny's Child, supposedly in this American theater that they put on the radio in the early 90s. I don't know under whose direction. They're calling her Brittany and Belle. I don't want to upset the Queen Consort somewhere else. But again, I didn't choose these children. I don't know who put them on Channel 7 in New York. I don't know if it was to upset someone. I don't know if that's part of the reason why I'm being punished. Like, I am so in the dark and the blind right now. It is like... So I'm going to pause this, and that's Quasar, and that's my sunlight at the moment, for space and time reference. And then I'm going to go to the CBS this morning. Yesterday I had a Zoom call with Zion, the local church at Frederick Douglass, because that's a name that they gave in the In God We Trust for the New York area at the moment. New Black History Month. I had never heard of this person, but now all of a sudden it's an invented authority. Or not authority, but it's authored into the history of this area. So I go to Douglaston, Frederick, I don't know, again, between Frederick and Charles. I don't know what goes on for the benefit of the monetary children elsewhere. But I've heard. And I don't know if that's where they hide, like, the theater, whatever. But is it theoretically possible? Perhaps. I don't know. I don't have access to some of the puzzle pieces that I've been discovering through Aerial America and the Smithsonian, while stuck in this toilet paper marriage with a blacksmith after a meeting at a Crazy Donkey, which was the first set of mistakes as far as I was concerned. Feels like a punishment, one after the next, for I don't know what reason. I started out with John and Glenn, St. John's on Sunday, Glenn during the week, a certain way. It just seemed I worked at all the right stuff. I mean, I thought that, like, a meeting of somebody respectable was imminent, but it instead turned into, like, an American disaster, an American horror story is what it feels like. So anyway, I was on with Zion yesterday. He said whatever he said in the private communication between the locals. And then this morning, I turn on CBS, and they're talking about some company putting in, like, all these scents into one building. And then she says, "Well, keep pumpkin out of it." And I'm just like, oh, right. That's so Red Army of you to say this morning. I don't really know if anybody else picked up on it, but it's worth a mention. Again, yesterday they did a whole thing about a Dutch scientist getting in with Amazon snakes, and, like, he's so brave. And then they had on Oppenheimer, and I'm like, yeah, like, in a Quasar way, like the Beyonce song, the lyrics, the poetry. Again, Sony brought it out with ATV. Not Werner Chapel. So it says specifically, and I'm like, is that Cherokee? Like, she looks so, I don't know, does she look Cherokee? Because I can't tell the difference, but I had one come up and tell me she was Colombian Cherokee, driving a Queen Victoria and a Taurus and then a Lexus, and I'm just like, And what is going on with like, where is like reality? Like, where is my ability to have a nice life? Like, why is all of this dance and theater company going on around me? And it just seems to be getting worse. And looking towards the future, and now we're up at like almost, I don't know, what is that? Like, they're calling that quasar sunlight. I mean, I have no idea how to appropriate that properly. So they're talking about in the song with Beyonce, who references herself as Queen Bee. I'm in the county Queens, might I add. It says this ain't Texas Hold'em. It also says, like, and again, I get if there were people who were fleeing, but if they actively start with a National Guard under some US label and then start rearranging the figures in my local residency, and they're locking me out of communications with the US completely, and like I can't get to the federal anything, I don't know how. It starts to portray a different thing, but inside the song it also says it's not really hot, it's kind of a cold. Like, and then at the end it says something about photocentric and something else. I mean, like, it is very indicative of like, what is a quasar, right? It's almost defined in there, like, what was the Cold War over? I have no idea, but like, is that about this potential for black holes with quasar that like radiologically is dangerous to live in? um Theoretically, I suppose it's possible. Why it's allowed to go on, I don't know. Is it a weapon? It feels like it's being used as a weapon with like climate change and whatever. So I'm going to put this on because right now it's talking about mass immigration. Like, I mean, there are people who are just charging in that are not priory or currency correct in genetics. Why are they coming here? There's things here that need to be fixed. It seems like a march or a charge onto like from out of bounds. I mean, where is the protection of the we the people from the in God we trust?
Trying to figure out next steps. Tony?
Meg, thank you very much. We're going to turn now to another high-stakes fight, this one over immigration at our southern border. Sources confirmed to CBS News that President Biden is considering using sweeping executive authority to tackle the crisis there. Republicans in Congress, you'll recall, blocked a compromise immigration deal earlier this month. Now there might be movement from the White House. Nancy Cordes has the details of this potential plan. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning, Tony. What the White House is floating here would be a return to the Trump border policy in one very significant respect. It would
And now, like, if water's involved, which I can't verify, I don't know, but theoretically, is it like the Pacific against the Atlantic at the water, like the interior seaway in the Great Plains, where, like, I mean, if I'm speaking NFL, like Buffalo, the Legend of Buffalo Bill, like, hello, Wyoming, I need help. And then, like, hello, Rhode Island, oh, asteroid, I don't want to be hit by an asteroid. But, like, I mean, again, like, Rockefeller, like, where are my hometown rich heroes who are going to, like, sweep in and just protect all the we the people and in God we trust, so we still have a nice place to live and raise children and do that American thing, like, rah rah hometown. I mean, it just seems like, do I blame it on the Pacific, the Atlantic, the interior seaway? Is it an arms issue? Because currently I'm having problems with the local, what's coming out as a contact. So, and not like face-to-face combat, but like it's an ignorance issue. I've been ignored, and it just, I don't, again, like, I don't know how to even broach that conversation really, and like who actually handles that. But I'm sure at the one, just to be his TWO from inside New York, who's actually got real life, evidential, experiential in my human form, it's whatever it is. So this is what's going on in the news. And she's in the Los Angeles, which is Pacific side of the beast.
Deter migrants from coming to the U.S. by restricting access to the overloaded asylum program. This is a big development, especially for a Democratic administration. And officials are considering it because of the record numbers of migrant crossings over the past few years. 2.4 million migrants apprehended at the border just in the past fiscal year. And so now they're looking at a law known as 212F that has been on the books for more than 70 years. It allows the president to suspend the entry of foreigners when it's determined that their arrival is detrimental to the interests of the United States. Now, if that sounds familiar, it's because the Trump White House used that same law to justify an attempted ban on visitors from some Muslim majority countries. That faced legal challenges, and this almost certainly would again. So why would Mr. Biden attempt it then? Well, because he's gotten an earful from Democratic governors and mayors who say their cities are inundated by new migrants. He does not poll well on this issue, and it is an election year. White House officials say that a decision on whether to go this route could come in the next 2 weeks. Vlad?
All right, Nancy, thank you very much. House Republicans are pushing.
And I'm looking at the microphones that they've chosen to put on the New York airwaves. I don't know who, again, like I'm sitting in an Army National Guard seat that does not look priory or currency correct or proper. And I only use that as a like emerging situational, like as the evidence presents itself, how do I get that to the correct Interior Ministry? So I'm going to pause this for a second, and I'm going to go to some of their other conversations where it very much like Gail just so innocently projects this red message after yesterday's Zion Zoom call about pumpkin. And again, I'm like, is this coincidental? Is this witchcraft? Is this wizardry? Is this, what is this? Like in timing and sequence, because there's some real serious tonality and complex compounding interest issues going on with this migrant crisis. So I'm going to pause this for a second, and I'm going to fast forward to where those are. Oh, and this is the ridiculousness. So now, again, like, I don't know his whole career. I don't know anything about President Biden. I did not follow him. I don't know. Again, he was in the Northeast, so he's the Atlantic side of, if they're sides, just so the interior knows. And now it seems like, just like they did with Trump, now they're going after Biden. What it means, I don't know. But if it's since I've arrived in I arrived to an imperfect system, an I am perfect system. It was not perfect. Let's just put it that way. And then it's just watching those trend lines in between of where neutrality and safety is for the interior with the priory and the currency. So I'm going to pause this for a second. But this is what they're doing currently with the presidents. I don't know who's going after them. Is this we the people that represent my best interests? Or is this the migrant crisis that they're pushing at the same time, going after the persons in charge of keeping us all safe? I don't know how to read the situation at the moment.
His younger brother, James, was the latest to appear before the Republican-led impeachment inquiry into President Biden on Wednesday, telling congressional investigators the president had no direct or indirect role in his business ventures. But Republicans were also answering questions about former FBI informant Alexander Smirnov, who appeared in federal court just a day earlier.
Any concerns about what happened with this FBI informant?
I'm looking at it. Just want to see what they've got. Why they say what they say.
And so here, again, still have a space program. They're still working, doing something. They're not, this one was talking more about like a robotics lab. I don't really think, it doesn't say anything about like jet propulsion. It's just more in like the theoretical, but then there, again, I heard it. It still exists within the US. Um, it says first commercial lunar landing. I don't know what that, like, what those trigger words are. So I'm going to pause this for a second and keep moving forward. Okay, so now, normally, I would never disrespect service personnel. I would never say anything bad about my Army, my Navy, my airmen, what actually keeps the "in God we trust" together and the "we the people" safe. Those are the people that I will actively defend as I defend myself. But there's been in my local area a discovery of an imperfection, is what we'll call it, in the system. And it's on my radar, and now I'm just watching some other things because of how opportunity and ability, like, I see some Americans get to go, like, they have nice retirements and pensions, they've had nice jobs and careers, they might have had a disaster of a marriage, they're okay, but they still have freedom, with financial freedom, to go places and do things, to educate themselves if they so wish. I have not had that American freedom ever in my grasp. It's been one lockdown and lockout after another. And it's very concerning, and it's just gotten worse.
We welcome you back to CBS Mornings. It is 7:30. The U.S. Army is facing what could be one of the largest abuse scandals in its history. CBS News is investigating the case of an Army doctor who was accused of sexual misconduct. His name is Major Michael Stock, and he faces allegations from 42 male patients who say he has abused their trust. Jonathan Bigliotti.
Now, there are church representatives, priests, in the Catholic diocese that I've heard of that have had pedophilia brought up against them. If that's how the I am in the EO me EO, again, like, I get military exercises happen every day, everywhere around the world. I get that. But there is some real, like, and so I get how the news portrays the church and the church representatives in the speakerphone system to the people in public trust that work in and around the "in God we trust," and how those two dance with one another. For whatever reason, they're showing this person with this US Army and with this. And again, I'm here and I was wearing this hat for a while, just trying to get my head wrapped around like what's going on in this local area. And so now they're using this as Army doctor with sexual misconduct. I don't know the full investigation. Again, my rep, I already put up the contact information, has a last name of YOON. It does not seem familial. It does not seem monetary, familial, proper. I don't know how that affects my person. Like, what is going on and what I'm experiencing. I don't know if it has, how much impact it has had on my life's journey. But it is worth mentioning. And then I'm going to put this from YouTube onto my Facebook private page for the Dear In God We Trust. I write to them like some person stuck on a spaceship in the middle of the galaxy, knowing that there's a planet called Earth, and there's one ONE on that planet that has capabilities of moving in ways that I need in order to help my one situation.
He sat down exclusively with two of the alleged victims whose identities we are not revealing. Speaking publicly for the first time, they say that this doctor, instead of healing them, left them with very deep wounds. We should warn you, this story may be triggering in language and in its content.
See? Whatever this is whatever it is. In a parallel elsewhere, it just shows that I'm not functioning at church level. There's been scandalous stories, and at the Army, there's been scandalous stories. Not that I want to disrespect any of them purposely. It's just theoretically, I understand that humanity and humans are not perfect. I've experienced them my entire human experience. So I'm going to pause this for a second and move forward. And then here, like, again, I go back to the example that Lewis, like, somebody on my Facebook page put up this Fed thing about the gray and the woman in the movie I've never seen, 50 Shades of Grey, but I heard is a very steamy whatever. And he's holding her face and says that he has a pleasure room, but then underneath it, it's all cactus. Not what one would immediately think of. That's how I feel like the television is it is just a minefield of cacti possibilities. And then Lewis comes up with this video of all different ethnic babies with this one cloth toy of a cactus, not something that could hurt the children, but it moves, and the children all of a sudden start crying and start wailing. And of course, spiritually, I find this absolutely hilarious, because I know that that's what the ONE actually is, when persons like myself are in real harm's way and danger. But again, I reserve that for the most extreme of situations, which is where I feel I am at the moment, with locked in and locked out of what is the United States of America and what is the Federal Reserve Note and what is the ONE. I shouldn't have to live under these conditions, so outside of, like, an outlier of where the curve of normal American from birth to death and how they've been able to live. So these things, like them sitting here, I think of them like those crying babies on the video in front of the cacti that's moving, because the cacti is doing what the cacti needs to do inside the Biden administration and inside Trump's administration. And all of the babies are crying at the cacti moving. The world is not a safe place to live. The cacti have to function, even if these babies are crying. But here they have a headline, "The Eagles' Legal Battle." So now there's like this parallel dimension of communication around, somewhere between the idiots and the idiom. Again, I know that upsets people at certain levels, but it's just semantics at this point. It's a delicate balance.
Where he thinks they belong. Clearly, there's another side.
Well, it's his handwritten notes. Okay, let's just take them at their word that they didn't know that they were stolen, but now you know they have been stolen. Why wouldn't you just give them back to Don Henley?
I don't know.
And then you asked the question, Tony, well, what if you paid for them? I went, I don't know. I just think they should be returned to him.
If they can prove that they were stolen, the Eagles.
So I'm not really worried about any of this.
You're right.
Now here they go on to a story about Biden's German Shepherd biting people, and then they've got commentary on that. And then it goes to a Amazon delivery truck that gets nailed from a train that cuts it in half. Driver survives, but it's an interesting story.
Doghouse. We're talking, of course, about Commander He bit Secret Service agents at least 24 times, according to those documents obtained by multiple outlets. That's on top of the other attacks reported by White House staff who had to go out of their way to avoid the dog. A source told CNN the Biden family feels awful and heartbroken over Commander's behavior. He now lives far away from the White House with other members of the Biden family.
Doesn't this make you a little annoyed that the dog was allowed to bite 24 times before, say, after bite number?
You know what makes me mad or annoyed is having to live this way and having babies cry when the cactus moves. That's what annoys me. In this level of imperfection, with this many dangerous things going on around them, that's what annoys me. Okay, so here's this Amazon piece.
Splitting it in half. That driver, folks, lucky to survive. In November 2021, Alexander Evans was driving down a road outside Milwaukee. Dashcam video, newly obtained by TMZ, shows the train slamming through his vehicle. Wait for it. Here it comes. You see the train in the background there?
Whoa.
Crushing the back half.
Yep.
All right, now, in my area, the Amazon Prime drivers are looking
Watch this
a
again.
lot like this gentleman. And then some of the United States postal workers inside of the and now actually in New York, I don't even see USPS on the road. Like they used to have in full force the white United States Postal Service trucks with the eagle on the side, the red, white, and blue. They were everywhere. I now, on a daily basis, I don't even see one. I see Amazon. I see the UPS brown truck. Sometimes I see FedEx. Sometimes I see DHS. I see a lot of Amazon Prime. I don't even see the United States Post Office anymore in New York, where I am in the county of Queens. That's a very large issue for me. So here's some U.S. military exercises, and then it goes to this reporter, Gail King, who has this show that I don't watch. I don't know where it's aired, called King Charles, but it's some basketball player.
Exercises in Poland as Russia's invasion of Ukraine approaches the 2-year mark.
I hope you make it to 80, but this is what we have for you because word is you like lemon. Is that true?
That was my favorite dessert.
And Gail wishes her friend and CNN co-host Charles Barkley a very happy birthday.
Dog, they went all out, y'all.
I don't know who invested in these promotional agents or agency. I don't know who's involved with any of this. I personally am not. But it's what's going on around me while all of this other really dangerous stuff is going on. I'm going to pause this and keep moving forward. Now, I know where the Colombian Cherokee and I went. 1978 arrival, and then whatever, and the whatever. But now they have this big promotional movie out called One Love, and I'm like, now does that have to do with George Washington and President Washington on the ONE on the dollar in the US? Because that's where they're airing this movie. Is that like one of those gratuitous, but like, again, surrounding circumstances? I'm just taking note of it, of its timing.
Singing in his own film about him, and
and it's just interesting that his whole promotional thing is around one love, the ONE. In God We Trust here in the United States, that ONE has a very real ministry, emotional importance. So I'm going to pause this and keep moving forward. Like, it's really hard. Where's that fine line between population dissidence and population compliance? In the part where I am in New York at the moment, with the chairs the way that they are, and with the treatment of my person, or whatever. I'm just trying to find that line. They have a Sesame Street mention, which talks about AIDS within my life frame and what the television persons were doing in promotional, whatever they were driving in New York, for which I don't know. And then it goes into that pumpkin reference by Gail.
Activist Hadiya Broadbent, who died on Tuesday. Broadbent, who was born HIV positive, was one of the youngest people to speak out about awareness and prevention. As a child, she appeared on many national TV shows, including a 1992 Nickelodeon special with Magic Johnson, where the two shared this very touching moment.
You wanted to say something?
That I want people to know that we're just normal people.
Mm-hmm. Aww. You don't have to cry. You don't have to cry.
I've grown up with this message my entire life, and when I was a child, before children and before husbandry, I was very tolerant. I had a lot of patience. I had a lot of understanding. I had a lot of empathy. Now that my entire life has not performed the way I needed it to, I'm a lot less patient. I'm a lot less understanding. And I really don't care for the message any longer. I'm at my threshold.
Awareness to this issue and the fact that she did that for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
Yep.
Still died so young.
It's a good thing to know.
All right, let's try to lighten it up a little bit.
All right,
Yes.
I'll go. My talk at the table, it's about a building in Houston. They may have found the trick to get people back in the office. I'm probably the only one that always says, I wish we were working 5 days a week. Whenever I say that, people say, shut up, Gail. Shut up, stop talking.
I thought you said you like coming back to the office.
I do.
But 5 days a week in the office?
I like being in the office with people. And when I go to the drugstore, I like interacting with people at their cash register.
I like that
going
too.
I don't like it. I love people. Anyway, commercial real estate company, Heinz is their name. They say they developed a special scent to pump into the heating and air conditioning system in its tower. Research shows that the pleasant odors can improve your mood. So Heinz says it will make more than 20 of its properties around the world smell like, listen to this, a day spa. The company says its signature scent took over a year to make, using more than 35 ingredients. They include Asian sambac, jasmine, meant to improve happiness and confidence, Indian sandalwood to alleviate the anxiety that some people feel, and Italian pine to fight fatigue. Now, they say that they think this works better for companies rather than outdoor terraces or fancy coffee. When I heard it, I thought,
An Italian pine. They didn't use the word spruce. I guess that's the difference between cosmic and interstellar. Again, or perhaps between Atlas and Alpine.
well, I know they got to have lavender in there. And they said, nope, companies should avoid the combination of lavender and pumpkin pie. Why? Because of its sexual arousal effect.
Not appropriate.
Is that why I like lavender?
That goes back to like an U.S. Army reference from earlier in this very real show. And like, again, pumpkin, the arousal. I was on a conference call yesterday. You can fill in those details as far as church and whatever the Io Me Io is doing. And like, there's always this dance between the In God We Trust and the public trust, and what military exercises are doing around the world, and how does one stay safe and on pace for where they belong, especially if your priory and currency proper.
But I thought, why isn't there, I just knew there was going to be lavender or vanilla. So don't do lavender or pumpkin pie, but all the other. What's the matter, Tony?
That sounds not U.S. Army. That sounds very Red Army to me. I'm just going to say it.
What's the matter?
Yeah, I just think.
What's the matter?
No, to get.
Because, like, again, at terrorists' networks outside the U.S., it almost sounds like signaling. I don't know, maybe kind of.
Gail, with the birthday candles sometimes get given out.
Make sure.
But they make it seem so innocent. Like I'm trying to catch on to the symbolic gestures of this area for an underground that I've been left out of my entire life. And now as I hear it and how it's relevant to a rooted, like, actual life frame in the galaxy, I'm just like,
Picture everything.
I'm not sure if it should definitely be lavender or if I should avoid the lavender entirely. One or the other.
No, but I do think that's nice that the company, all kidding aside, has come up with a nice scent to get people back. You would like to work in a place that sounds like a day spa.
Yeah, it sounds nice.
I like that.
Might ruin the spa for
Glad did that make you feel a little better?
It did.
Thinking about Hydea. I get it.
But that made me feel good, Gail.
I get it.
I didn't know that about lavender. So.
and again, like, I watched on 60 Minutes, they talk about outside foreign investments inside the U.S. with sports and sports washing. And again, that goes back to human trafficking, drug trafficking, cartels, and a whole lot of other military exercises that I'm concerned with. But again, I'm going to put it back into God's hands, knowing that, again, priory and currency of this area is still HR appropriate at mastery, for whatever that means in, like, real world. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. It's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.